critically think about what the news is telling you, if you critically think about what your president, what your city council, what your mayor, what your governor, lieutenant governor, whatever it is, if you bring to the table a critical thought, I think it's a lost art. At least that's my hypothesis. It's what I want to discover and explore with you today on this new and improved 1 hour Alaska Matters. Oh man, baby, we are swimming in the deep water today, you and I. Now, I don't want to take advantage of that and just go, just go on at the mouth. You know what I mean? I want to take full advantage of this hour and be as powerful as possible. But the person here today with me, his name is Fred Cates. The reason I asked Fred to be on the program today and to handle this question, is the art of critical thinking lost, is that I've observed Fred over the last several years as someone who is a critical thinker, somebody who brings his own thought. I don't know where he's going to go on any subject he and I delve into today. I don't know, but I know one thing for sure. He'll be certain of where he's going and where he's coming from, and he'll have an opinion on it. He'll be informed and knowledgeable about it, but I just can't predict, and that's what I think is so cool. You know what I mean? Sometimes you meet somebody and you just can predict. Oh, well, they're a liberal. You know exactly what they're going to say. Oh, well, they're making excuses over Benghazi. They're making excuses over IRS Gate. They're making excuses over Associated Press Gate. They're making excuses over lying. What difference does it make, according to Hillary? Well, yeah, I mean, you just know that they're going to excuse it. You see it on your social media. You see it in the newspapers. You see it in your friends' eyes when you bring this up, if you dare bring this up to some of your friends. And some people maybe you shouldn't discuss politics with. Maybe some people you shouldn't have the kind of conversation that Fred and I are going to have today. Some folks in your life maybe you just shouldn't discuss that with. But what I'd love for you to do is to go inside the mind of a critical thinker with me today. This is the first ever that I'm aware of. And we've had a lot of staff hours and research. We've written grants. We've spent a lot of your tax dollars trying to determine if before there has ever been an on-air live human brain dissection. I believe today is the first. I believe we're not only going to cut into the scalp of Fred Cates, but we will also be cutting into the history books of radio. I'm excited. I can tell you are. If you've not eaten lunch yet, I'm going to warn you. It's going to be a very graphic program today. It's going to be one that if there's children in the room, don't turn the radio off. Let them hear it. Turn it up. They need to know about critical thinking. And I trust that if you listen to this program on a regular basis, you already are a critical thinker. You're certainly someone of good taste and discernment. I appreciate that. My grandfather in Florida, his name was, we call him Granddaddy Story. His friends called him Judge, which I thought was kind of interesting because he, for miles around, as the family lore goes, for miles around, people would come to Sumter County, Florida, to visit with my great-grandfather. This is going back 2-3 generations, and would ask him questions, ask his counsel, seek his advice. He was not a preacher. He was a farmer, and but he did do a little preaching. But he was a farmer, and a lifelong farmer, third or fourth generation Floridian himself. And lived on about 1,600 acres in the middle of Florida, central Florida, somewhere near where you might associate with Disney World right now. And people would come from all over to ask him questions. Well, Fred Cates, our guest today in the first half of the program, reminds me of that kind of critical thinker. And I'm blessed because my father picked up the same attributes as his grandfather did. And I believe, to a certain extent, that he has passed those on to me. And so I like to say, anyway, that I come from a long line of critical thinkers. You may agree or disagree with that. Just depends on whether or not you're in the planning and zoning department. You may not think that I'm a critical thinker. That, my friends, leads us to the second half of the show. It's Get Vocal and Act Local. We'll be joined by Justin Arnold. Justin is the bag boy. He's the bag ban repeal petition sponsor, the original sponsor, if you will, the brainchild of the bag ban petition to repeal that ordinance that prohibits a certain thickness of a plastic bag. We'll be getting into a lot of things city-related in the second half of the show, so stay with me, please, during the entire program. So the first half of the show, we'll be dissecting a brain of a rare species called a critical thinker. Second half of the show, we'll be delving into what's happening at Homer City Hall. Are zoning laws being enforced equitably? and fairly. And we'll be giving away some Blackwater Bend Espresso coffee cards, all that and more coming up here on Alaska Matters. Chris Story, you're listening to Alaska Matters, what my mom calls the greatest show on earth. My number, baby, is 226-3933, 226-3933. I want to thank Blackwater Bend for making this program possible today. You'll absolutely love Blackwater Bend Espresso, and if you've not had a Bender blender, you might as well just say you haven't lived. That's the reality of it. It's worth the drive. If you're listening, just point your car north or south from wherever you are and go to Blackwater Bend Espresso and order a Bender blender. Tell them I sent you. My favorite's a Black Mancino, but I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to admit this just between you and me. By winter, though, I do from time to time still imbibe a Viper. Viper, you'll recall, is a raspberry mocha. That's right, but I do soy now. So a raspberry soy mocha, I call it a Viper, but a Black Mancino, whatever your flavor, make Blackwater Bend Espresso your coffee headquarters. They're not your average drip. All right, Monday, that would be yesterday, tremors were detected at Pavlov Volcano, 625 miles southwest of Anchorage. When, this is for the big prize, this is for the money, this is for a Blackwater Bend Espresso coffee card. Enter to win. When did Pavlov last erupt? Was that in 2007, 1907, or 1964? Enter to win by texting your name and answer to 299-7653. When did last the Pavlov volcano erupt? 07, 1907, or 1964? We now enter uncharted territory. We'll do a live on-air dissection of a critical thinker's brain. So without further ado, nurse, please hand me the scalpel. Ouch! Handle first, I've told you. All right, give me the bone saw. Here we go. All right, we're in. Barely made it in. This is a big brain. A lot of ground to cover here. Please help me welcome Fred Cates, salesman, serial entrepreneur, information maven, dreamer, builder, businessman, husband, great American, he's a father, and a critical thinker. Fred, am I right? Is critical thinking a lost art in your estimation?
Well, it is not a lost art. However, I believe that the proper use of critical thinking in many ways has been bent, twisted, and turned, and very many people that are critical thinkers are quite possibly using it in a manner that will allow them to obtain their goals. Now, I'm no different. I use my critical thinking to help me to obtain my goals, and I like to think that I have a balanced pool of knowledge that I pull from when I make my decisions, and I also like to believe that when I do make my decisions that they're not for selfish or agenda-directed reasons. And where I'm going with all this is that critical thinking is something that I think we really need to start teaching our children from an early age so they can learn how to go out into the world and gather information from, there's not always just two sides of a story. Sometimes there's 3 or 4 sides or 5 or 6 sides to a story. And critical is a word that means crucial. So if you're going to make a critical decision, it's crucial that you have obtained all the information. Now, the other side of critical thinking, I believe, is that it's really important that you are very discerning and using discerning judgment in how you use the information that you have.
That is key, isn't it? I'm finding myself, Fred, more and more wishing that the authorities in many, many levels would use just what you just said, discernment. That seems to be a missing component of this. Going back to what you said earlier, teaching the children, pray tell, did your family teach critical thinking? Is that something that you grew up in a household where people said, wait a minute, Fred, or Freddie or little Freddie, not so fast. Have you considered this? Where did you acquire this skill?
Actually, I grew up with parents that did not teach that. Now, that doesn't make them bad parents, but I grew up in a day and age where it was cheeseburgers and tennis shoes and 57 Chevy convertibles and so on and so forth. And then as a teenager, I grew up when the hippie scene in Vietnam came on. So, I could date myself. I'm 58 years old. I have no problem with that. But it wasn't until I myself noticed that things around me weren't right. The business environment I worked in was not one that was nurturing or edifying. Sure, it was a perpetual motion business that no matter what they said or did to the clients, the business thrived because we had all the stuff. It was hardware, builder supply, windows, doors, nuts, bolts, screws, so on and so forth. We had everything in one city block, and we had the best prices in town, so everybody came there. But what I learned at an early age was the only product I could provide to people was service.
Mm-hmm.
And attached to service is love, kindness, acknowledgement of who they are and why they're in your store and why you want to encourage them to come back. And that's where I learned how to be a critical thinker at an early age, because I didn't see critical thinking in the context that I spoke about previously of using discerning judgment without just having an agenda. Now, someone out there listening might say, well, you had an agenda. You're darn right I had an agenda. I wanted to build a business. I wanted people to like me.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted people to feel loved and important when they came into the business.
So it's important to you to contribute. Through what you're doing for your living, you want to contribute.
I'm sorry, say that again?
You want to contribute. That's part of what you're talking about is contribution.
Have you ever heard of the burnt baby syndrome?
No, I can't say that I have.
Okay. Sometimes you'll walk into a business and you'll get a great product, you'll get lousy service. So you go to that same business the next time, you get great service and a good product, but something else will be missing. And each time you go into that business, you're like, well, let's use a restaurant. I know I'm going to get a good whatever, a good hamburger, but I'm not sure how they're going to treat me. I'm not sure if they're going to be nice, if they're going to appreciate me, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm not even sure if it's going to be plated the same as I got it last time. So when you go into that business, it's kind of the burnt baby syndrome. You never know what you're going to get because each time you go in there, you get burnt. You follow what I'm saying?
I do. Interesting. I was really concerned about the baby for a moment, but I understand that it's okay. Well, all right, let's do this, Fred.
Baby.
Let's jump right in to a couple of issues of the day, of the moment. Let's just pretend that you're a mother, an expectant mother, or the father of an expectant, you and your couple, you're a couple that is expecting a baby. Let me put it this way. And you read and see in the news constantly a discussion about vaccinations. Pro, con, what do you, I know it's a much bigger subject than we can handle. In fact, hold your thoughts. We'll allow Fred to be critically thinking as we go into a short break here. And when we come back, you'll hear what a critical thinker would tell you regarding vaccinations here on Alaska Matters.
All the chemicals inside, I want to feel. I want to sunburn. Just to know.
Don't forget, you can still answer the Blackwater Bend Espresso Mind Bender. Here's the question. Monday, that would be yesterday, tremors were detected at Pavlov Volcano. Pavlov last erupted when? 2007, 1907, 1964. Text your name and answer to win the Blackwater Bend Espresso coffee card to 2997653. Play along with us. We're playing along with a big brain. It's Fred Cates. He is our critical thinker. We're calling that a lost art today on Alaska Matters. And when Fred and I last left each other, we were going to discuss what Fred thinks critically about vaccinations. Fred, what are you going to tell that young couple?
I'm going to tell them this. There's a lot of information out there about vaccination. One side is going to convince you that you must absolutely have to have your baby vaccinated. And the other side is going to tell you what I would tell you. Babies that get less vaccinations go to the doctor less. The thing is about medicine is that the medical industry is fantastic. It truly is amazing what they can do for you. However, medicine is poison. And the unfortunate side is the unfortunate thing is that there are side effects to taking medications. Vaccination is, and I'm going to use the broad sense of the term, a medication. Sure, you're not getting it because you're sick, but they're giving it to you in the pretense that it's going to prevent you from getting sick. However, there is a lot of information out there that those vaccines contain other substances that in the long term are going to be more detrimental than in the short term. So I believe in being as natural as you can, eating properly organic fruits and vegetables.
So you're talking prevention, basically.
I'm talking prevention because, you see, doctors are trained to practice medicine. I live on practicing health, and so I don't need medicine. However, if I were to break a leg, what's on my card? Who's the first person to call in case of an emergency? Call my doctor, because I need him to fix my leg.
Right.
But on the other hand, I don't get sick hardly ever. I don't. Yeah. I'm going to digress a little bit here. I don't have health care, and this is very controversial out there. But I think that any time you have health care, and if you have something catastrophic, it's not going to matter.
Well, let's talk about this then. Let's just jump into Obamacare then, because it's a feel-good bill. I'd say that Obamacare, or the Affordable Health Care Act, is the feel-good bill of the century. And if you oppose it, a lot of people are saying, well, you just don't want people with pre-existing conditions to get coverage, or God forbid you ever get sick, buddy. Let's see who's there for you. How do you bring and apply critical thinking to Obamacare?
Well, Obamacare was sold as a feel-good bill. It was also sold that everybody will have health care. However, the amount of health care you're going to get per individual is $5,000 per year and $10,000 per family. And it's going to cost you way, way more than any health care program will cost you. And if you have a really good health care program, they've already shown that they've doubled or gone up as much as 40% in some cases. Some have doubled.
Oh, mine has gone up 35%, but don't get me started.
If you go to your health care provider, not the health care provider, but the insurance company that you are purchasing your health care from, and you are not allowed to make any changes to that policy. You can't change your deductible to reduce the premium. If you make any changes, your policy is canceled, and the whole foundation behind Obamacare is to have single-payer coverage, which means the only place you'll be able to get it is through the government.
And okay, well, what's wrong with that, Fred?
Well, we can ask the American Indians how we can go back and see how well the government's taking care of them, or pretty much the only thing the government, I think, does even fairly well is taking care of our roads and our sewer systems and providing fire protection, and they don't even do a good job of protecting our borders, although they could if they wanted to. And our military, I think our government has just gotten way too big, and there's too much bureaucratic fences and walls and pillars in the way of doing anything today. And getting back to health care, Obamacare, it's what they have like 17,000 pages now or something in our
It's insane. Yeah,
incredible.
It's mind-boggling to me, and I'm trying to figure this out, Fred, because that's why I wanted to ask you about that in particular. I'm glad we got to it today. Is what do you say? What do you bring to the table then when you get into a conversation with somebody who just says, well, they react emotionally, which we can all do from time to time, and not bring critical thought to bear. Let's just say you're engaged with someone who's reacting emotionally about the Healthcare Act. Where do you go? Do you just shower them with facts and figures, or direct them to websites? What's your plan there?
Well, I always, and I have this opportunity quite often in our business here in town, which I hope I can mention. Maybe you'll even give away some of our certificates.
Oh, yeah, I've got an envelope filled with Staytan certificates here. Glad you could mention. Yes.
So come to Staytan, you'll feel loved, and you'll get warm, and you get your vitamin D. But getting back to your question, what I've learned is rather than engaging in an argument of big me, little you, or I'm right or you're wrong, and I'm going to also touch back on critical thinking because this applies to what I'm talking about. I ask people, why do you feel that way? And see, if I give you an opportunity to tell me how you feel and why you think the way you do, hopefully you will afford me the same courtesy. That way we can start to establish a dialogue. And if you are in possession of facts, then you can say, I had a conversation recently with someone about why they didn't want to vote for Mitt Romney.
Mm-hmm.
And they basically said because of he wanted a voucher system for the kids. And I said, well, are you aware of Common Core, which has been introduced, and I didn't get to go this far with it, but it was introduced through the back door, bypassed every state legislation, and every state that took the first stimulus package, the new Common Core school curriculum was put in there, and that's now what's being taught in our schools. Now, Alaska doesn't have Common Core. They have their own version there. I think there's 3 or 4 states that didn't take the money.
Mm-hmm.
But all the rest of them are going to have that program now. So if you're able to discuss with people by opening up a dialogue and not arguing, but saying, okay, always give the other person the opportunity to tell you why they feel the way you do. You'll relax.
Okay, well, let's do this. Let's demonstrate it. Fred, I think that the cover-up in Benghazi with the State Department and the administration and Jay Carney and all of the what a lot of people are calling lies and fraud and deceit perpetrated upon the American people with the video and the shadowy, quote-unquote, shadowy character that created that video, I think that's a big conspiracy, Fred. I think that people just don't like Obama. They're either racists or they just don't like him, so they're making up this cover-up.
Okay, why do you feel that way?
Oh, man. Man, I'm not a good actor. I don't feel that way, but I think, okay, I'm going to get into character. Let me get back into character. Well, because people in this country just don't like him.
Okay, well, you're right. There are a lot of people in this country that just don't like him. But even Obama himself, if you look back at his tapes, has admitted certain portions of the guilt, actually, without actually saying he's guilty. He doesn't want to own anything. And, this is way too big to discuss here today, but I think it's really important to suggest to these people that, okay, you may listen to ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, Piers Morgan, and Rachel Maddow, and Chris Matthews, and you might listen to all those people, and that's where you're getting your information, which is fine. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do is turn on and listen to Rush Limbaugh, listen to Glenn Beck, listen to Bill O'Reilly and Greta Van Susteren and Hannity, and give them an equal amount of time, and don't kill the messenger. And don't just do it for one day. Do it for a month. And then you might be able to come back and say, wow, maybe I'm not getting all the information from my sources that I thought I was. And then when people start to step outside of their anger or their comfort zone or their shell or their cave and open up their eyes, maybe then we'll be able to replace the current government, which is not just the regime or the president, but the Congress, the House, and the Senate, and get enough new blood in there to where, unlike what Harry Reid says, that's not the way we do things here in Washington. Well, we need to do things how they should be done in America based on our founding fathers, how they set it up.
Fred, I'm tearing up. That was good. I'm hopeful that by sharing this and sharing the applied art of critical thinking, according to Fred Kates, that you too will share this. It'll be on our website later today, AdventureAlaskaRadio.com, AdventureAlaskaRadio.com. And Fred, I'm taking away from this that you are secure and certain in what you know, and you also yourself gather information from a multitude of sources. And once again, thank you for being available here and allowing me to crack into your skull today.
Well, you're welcome. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I want to say one last thing, if I have a minute.
You have less than a minute, but say it.
Okay, critical thinking. There's weak and strong critical thinking. Weak critical thinking can be done by brilliant people, but they have an agenda and they're not being honest. And the truth has no agenda. And when you're a strong critical thinker and you use the truth, it will overshadow everything.
The truth shall set you free. Thank you, Fred. It's been a pleasure and an honor to have you here on Alaska Matters.
I appreciate the opportunity. Have a great day.
Yeah, you're welcome. I will have a great day. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over and tan today. There's nothing that feels better. I hate to segue into that, but I love coming out on a cold day from a tanning salon. I don't know. It's pretty awesome. So stick around. Second half of the program, we'll have Justin Arnold. He is the petitioner for the bag ban repeal. And we'll also give away some Stay Tan gift certificates. Fred dropped off a whole bunch of them to me here a while back, and I've been meaning to give them out. I think today's the day to do it in honor of critical thinking. We'll come up with some question or a way to give it away. We'll think about it. But listen to some news here for a little bit. Dave and I are going to regroup. We're going to caffeinate up and bring back the second half of the greatest show on earth. So for all of us here for the first half of Alaska Matters, I can't wait to see you in the second half. Alaska Matters, and so do you.